All right, so xTool just announced their new S1 model, and the S1 is kind of a combination of a D1 Pro 40 watt LED-based machine and their P2 CO2-based machine that is fully enclosed. This kind of marries those two machines together. This is a 40 watt LED-based fully enclosed machine, and I do believe it is the first one of its kind. But it's way more than that. It has a lot of tricks up its sleeve, and it has a lot of compatibility with the xTool line of accessories. So let's get into it. All right, so let's quickly run down the specs before we get into the nitty-gritty of what I love about this machine. So it's fully enclosed, kind of already alluded to that. This is a fire-resistant shell that it's in. It has the transparent lid that allows you to see what's going on. This is kind of the laser filter to kind of help protect your eyes. So you don't necessarily need the goggles. It has the active smoke exhaust on it. It has flame detection built into it, so if a fire were to break out, the machine will shut down and stop processing the job. It has the lid safety stop, so if someone were to be in your shop and you're doing something else in there and they go over and try to lift the lid while it's doing the job, it will shut down. It has tilt and impact protection if you don't have it sitting on a good surface, which you should have it sitting on a stable surface, but in the event that something happened or it got jostled, it would also recognize that and stop, as well as the old manual e-stop switch that's back here on the side. This unit has a 40 watt head in it as shown. It also has the ability to use a 20 watt head and then the infrared module that allows you to do metals. So why would you want a 20 watt head on a 40 watt machine? It gives you a little bit of a smaller dot size. The dot size on the 40 watt is 0.08 by 0.1 millimeters. The dot size on the 20 watt is 0.08 by 0.06 if I remember correctly. So it's a little bit of a finer pitch dot. If you were doing extremely detailed work or extremely delicate cutting, you may want to go to a 20 watt machine to get that smaller dot size. So that's nice. I advertise speed of 600 millimeters per second, and it does it more stable than most according to the marketing material. We have a new positioning method. We have a better positioning than a camera. We have a local visualization in the software, and we have autofocus. I will touch on those four things momentarily later in the video because very interesting indeed. This can do curved surfaces as well. That was kind of the same as the P2. That's kind of a carryover into this machine. The accessories that this machine has, you see the riser base, it's on it right now. The machine natively is about 7 inches tall. The riser adds about 4 inches to that. We have the conveyor feed system, very much like the P2. I keep harping on that. This has the same type of accessory, so you can feed longer material through that, up to 3,000 millimeters according to the information online. This also has the honeycomb bed to allow for easier cutting. It has the fire safety set, which is an active fire suppression system. In the event that a fire was detected in the machine, it would flood the machine with CO2 and snuff the fire out. That is an added accessory that you can get on their website. It has the smoke purifier, which is kind of like an exhaust system that's contained that runs the air through a filter to remove all the smoke and the impurities out of it. And then we also have the laser head, the IR laser head for metals that I alluded to a minute ago. This unit also has smart air assist. Why is it smart? Because the machine calls for the air pump to turn on and then also tells the air pump when to turn off, so that there's no more running around hitting a switch and turning it on, and then when the machine's done and you're looking at the job it just did, you forget to turn the air off and it's still running. So this takes care of that for you. Something I've been asking for any manufacturer for a long time, and it's on the xTool now, which is fantastic. This unit works with XCS. That's what I used it with. It also is compatible with Lightburn, but you do give up some of the features of the machine when you go to something that's not developed specifically for the machine. So as much as I love Lightburn, I want to use all the features that this machine has to offer, and natively it just works with its own brand of software, and so that's what I've been using, and I've had great results with it as well. The machine has a native working area of 498 by 319 millimeters. That's roughly 19.6 by 12.56 inches. With the conveyor system and all the additional links of the conveyor that you can put on, you go from 470 by 3,000 millimeters, which is 18.5 inches by 118 inches of usable space. All right, so let's quickly kind of take a walk around the machine and talk about some of the features and some of the differences that we haven't seen before on any of the xTool products. So as I said, this is a fully enclosed 40-watt LED based machine. It has the ability to use different heads. So not only can it use a 40-watt head, but you can use a 20-watt head. David, why would you want to do that? Well, the 20-watt head has a little finer dot size of the laser. This one is 0.08 millimeters by 0.1 millimeters, so it's a little bit larger than most, but again, it's 40 watts, and it's the aggregation of 8 different laser beams, so it's kind of expected that it would be a little bit larger. So the 20-watt version gives you a tighter beam, which is 0.08 by 0.06. So if you were doing very intricate work, a 20-watt might be something that you would want to put in this machine, and there is that option. There's also the option to add the infrared laser that allows you to do precious metals and other metals with the infrared spectrum, and that also is an accessory that you can put in this machine. So it's very versatile from that standpoint, and that's a differentiator from the P2. The P2 only does CO2 laser, and so you're limited to those types of materials. This one gives you a little bit more flexibility at a lower price point, so that's good. Some of the other accessories that I'm showing on this, the base model is basically from here up. It's roughly 7 inches tall. We have the riser base, which adds 4 inches of depth approximately, and that allows us to use the rotaries that xTool has, as well as laser engrave thicker things like a thick cutting board or a piece of artwork or something like that. And so this all metal bottom end, or the riser base, has doors on the front and the back. Why would you need that? That's because this machine also has the conveyor system like the P2 does, so that you can do much larger work pieces as they feed through the machine, going in the front, coming out the back. So that's a nice add. Again, very in line with the P2 machine as far as the accessories go. Another accessory that you may not be able to see in the shot is that we have the Honeycomb table in this unit. Much like the P2, much like the Honeycomb for the D1 Pro, this one also has that ability with the magnetic hold down clamps that just slide down into the Honeycomb bed. And this is helpful when you're doing cutting jobs because it allows the laser to work more freely. It allows the smoke to vent out the bottom while it's cutting, which gives you a better result, less overburn, less smoke on the back of the part. The Honeycomb is an accessory of the machine, but they also include these nice little kind of triangular aluminum extrusions that you can lay down on the pan that is the standard bottom of this machine, to still allow you to do cutting without having to use the Honeycomb bed. If you're doing production work or you're doing very delicate stuff that you need to hold down in case the air that the machine puts out tries to move it, then the Honeycomb is probably the way to go. If you're doing heavier items that the air assist won't shift around, then the slats that they include with the machine should be more than adequate to allow you to freely cut without the added expense of the Honeycomb. But the Honeycomb is an option. All right, so I flipped the machine around so we could take a look at the back. So we'll just walk through this. What we have is the on-off power button here. We have the power in. We have a USB-C connector that goes to a standard USB connector on the PC side or the laptop side. We have this little thing that looks like a key symbol, and this is a key. This is a safety precaution. So if you had small children around and you didn't want them accidentally getting involved with this machine, then this is your USB key, more or less an electronic key to unlock the machine and allow you to use it. It does come with 2 of these. So on this side, we have the connector for the air assist, which is a hose connector. We have a larger hose connector for the fire suppression accessory that xTool offers. It is compatible with this machine. And then we have these new ports. These are very much like USB ports, the micro USBs. And this is the interconnectivity that xTool has added to this machine to allow it to be smarter. And so the air assist pump that this unit came with is actually powered and controlled by one of these ports. So when you're doing a job and the machine needs the air, if you have the air assist set to auto, then the air pump comes on automatically, turns off automatically. That's fantastic. I've been asking for that. So I'm glad to finally see it. And I think it's been incorporated in a very interesting way. On the other side of the back, we have this exhaust hose. Now, it doesn't ship with this installed. It actually ships with this fan guard on the back of it to make it more shippable, let's say. But this unscrews, and then this piece that comes with the unit just screws right into the same place. If you're using it in an area where it's close to outside or you've got a window behind it or something, you could probably get away with this. Obviously, I'm in the basement, and so this hose is important to me because I pull this into my exhaust system that's in the shop. So that's a nice add. This is very beefy, and it extends quite a ways, and it has a nice positive attachment to the back. And this is a fan-driven exhaust. So if you don't have an exhaust system, then you could hang this hose out the window or hook it to an exhaust vent, and it would be very beneficial in keeping the smoke down. All right, so of the things that I love about this machine, the way that you set up the job, I did not expect. And so I was used to using the P2. That's been my go-to machine ever since I've gotten it and reviewed it. I've done several videos on it, and it's just, I don't even think about it. It's just the go-to machine for me when it comes to cutting or engraving larger things. So the way that the P2 does it is it uses a camera. That's very common. You see that on a lot of different manufacturers' machines. This doesn't have a camera. And I'm like, okay, well, how are they going to do it? If it's going to be so accurate, how are they going to do it? And one of the jobs that I did was landing this kind of cool looking owl on this very tiny piece of anodized aluminum. And I didn't pull out a set of calipers to measure it, but to my my certified eye, that looks dead on. And it was pretty easy to get that. So I want to show you how they do it so you can see what I see. And I kind of fumbled my way through it to figure it out. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so much easier. And so it's interesting that it's not using a camera, but we can get some fantastic results. All right, so I'm recording what I'm doing on the computer so I can kind of include that in this shot. But you're looking down at the machine. I've got the lid open, so we won't be able to execute the job, but you will be able to see everything that's going on. So I've just laid a piece of 4x4, 2.7 millimeter plywood just on the bed. I don't expect it really to move around, and we're going to cut out this snowflake. And so, much like the P2, I'll go over here, and I've already got 3 millimeter bass plywood, which is kind of the setting that I used with the P2. And I need to orient the material to the machine so the machine knows where to do the job. And that's kind of interesting. I'm going to go over here to framing. I'm going to click the 3 dots, and I'm just going to move the machine to the material. And you could do this by hand, but I typically like to drive the machine so I can see the vertical line now on the part. And over here on these settings, this is how much I move every time I click the button. So if I lower this slider to 1 millimeter and I click it, and you just saw it move very slightly, and so I can move this up if I want to, and it'll move that amount. So I'm going to kind of eyeball it and get it in the center, and we'll go ahead and do overshot it. So I'm going to pull this back, and I'm just kind of doing it by eye. And once you get close, you can change it to 1 millimeter, and then you can really dial it in. And I'll probably go left 1 click. So I'm going to call that good, because this snowflake is roughly this. It'll easily fit on that piece of wood. So now, if you're looking on the screen, I've got a red X or a red plus. This is telling me where the crosshairs are on the work surface. And so if you saw me when I was jogging the machine, this red plus was moving. And so this is where it expects to start the job. So in order for me to get a good result, now all I need to do is drag my snowflake and just drop it dead in the center like that. So now the plus, or the center of the snowflake, is at the center of that plus, which is in the center of the material. So that's how easy it is to line stuff up now. The only other thing I need to do, I've got this set to cut. I've got my speed set to 20. I'm actually going to back that up. This particular plywood is a little bit stringy, and I want to make sure I go all the way through it. And so if I click off of that, that goes back to the previous settings where I had laser flat, which means we're doing a flat object. I've got my 3 millimeter bass plywood selected here, but I've got this distance. What is that? Well, that's the focal distance. There's no way for me to focus this machine. The machine has to do it itself. And all I need to do, and this is kind of the cool thing, is I'll click this little, it almost looks like a kind of a target over on this side, but it says auto measure if you hover over it. So I'm going to click that. So let me explain what happened. I hope you could see that in the shot, but as soon as I clicked auto measure, it offset to make this little stylus that's on the side of the laser head, it offset to make that in line with the center where the X was. So then it extends that stylus, it goes down, and as soon as it hits the material, that triggers a sensor, and it says, okay, there's my surface that I need to laser, and then it goes up, it goes over to the side, there's a little platform over on the rail on this side, and it resets the stylus, it tucks it back away. Kind of similar to a BL Touch on a 3D printer, but it's using it to measure where the surface is so that it can set the focus. I thought that was pretty cool. It makes it very easy. So let me hook up my exhaust and we'll hit the go button. All right, so the exhaust is on. I'm ready to go. I'm going to hit framing, so you'll just see what that does. I already know that it's going to be right. As I mentioned before, it beeps. The indicator button on the laser has now gone blue. Kind of hard to see in the shot. And so that means that I can hit that button and it's going to do an outline of the job, or a preview. Just that simple. That verified what I kind of already knew, that we were in the center of the material. We'll get a good product out of that. So over on the screen, I'm going to click process. Much like the P1, it'll give you a preview of the job, and then if I hit start, it sends the job to the machine beeps, the light goes blue again, meaning I can execute, and if I push the button on the front of the machine, you saw how effective the Honeycomb was while the smoke was actually being forced down by the air assist. So that was going down underneath the bed and shooting out the side away from the material. And that helps cut down on any sort of smoke mark or overburn. So I showed you the first time that you can actually drive the machine to it using the software. You can drive the crosshairs to the center, but you can even quicker than that. You can just grab it, move the crosshairs, line it up by eye, about like that. And then you hit your height measurement. And it's ready to go. All right, so let's go over some of the things I was very quickly able to do with the machine. And this is all first run stuff. It's just one of those things where it just kind of worked. And you know, I'm here for it. So you saw in the video, or you will see in the video, that we just blasted this out, how easy it was to set that job up. This is just a very little delicate snowflake that I pulled the clip art offline and blasted it through one of these wooden 4x4 or 4" by 4" coasters. And that would make a fantastic Christmas ornament. You could add an additional feature to put a loop on it or something like that. Those would be great kind of giveaway type things. I had these little wooden log blanks, and this one says Happy Halloween with a bat flying on it. Did a great job. This machine is very fast as well, so these jobs don't take that long. In the wood as well, I did do another snowflake, but that one was off camera. Let's see, this is 11 millimeters and it blasted right through this. Interesting feature inside the software, you can push the laser focus. If you've been around a while, you've probably heard me use that term before. Normally when this machine is focusing, it's going to focus on the surface. When the stylus comes down, it's going to touch this, and this is going to be the plane or the section or the flat that it's trying to do the job on. You can push that focus further down. Why would you want to do that? When you're cutting thicker materials, it allows you to focus inside the material, so you're making more use of the bandwidth of that beam and the hourglass shape that a focused laser beam has. You're pushing that pinpoint focus down into the material, and that ultimately gives you a faster and thicker cutting capability. Now, I've said this before as well, I don't necessarily think that a laser engraver in general is the right tool for extremely thick material. There are machines out there that people have tried to cut 2x4s, half-inch plywood, all sorts of things. Can you do it? Sure. Should you do it? I don't think you should. It's risky, it's a potential for fire, and you may not get the results that you need because you're dealing with light and not an actual cutting bit. So, end of rant. But it had no problem doing this 11mm piece of log. From there, I moved on to some metal. This is an anodized aluminum business card holder. These would make great gifts. These would be great things to add to your store if this is the kind of stuff that you do. And I very quickly and easily landed the Neo 7 CNC logo on this, and it was less than a minute of total engrave time. I could have gone bigger, but that is dead center and it looks very professional, and it was easy to do, so that can't be overstated. So I did this face that you've seen me do before because it's so detailed. I wanted to see how this could do even though it's got a larger dot size, and it still turned out fantastic. I've got close-ups of all this stuff so you can see the detail. And then from there, I moved on to the aluminum tag that I've already kind of talked about, and it just knocked this out of the park. It left a beautiful white mark on this blue anodized aluminum tag, and that owl looks fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that. So then I moved on to stainless steel, and so I pulled out the old stainless steel dog tag test and added a different owl to it, and it really turned out fantastic. Again, centered in the material, up and down, left and right, all using the process that you have seen or will see me do here shortly. All right, so that's a wrap on the first look at the brand new xTool S1. I'd love to know what you think about it. Please leave those comments and questions down below. I'll have all the information, including the deals that they're offering right now from today through November the 2nd. All of that information will be down below. You can get $200 off, and you can also, in the US, get a free Honeycomb bed as well as the Air Assist for a limited time only. So be sure to check that out if this is something that you're interested in. Thanks for sticking around. I look forward to seeing you again.